Hi again, everyone. Welcome to the Wildcat Report from Salt Lake City, Utah, where the Wildcats take on the Hartford Crimson in round 3 of the NCAA basketball tournament. The winner moves on to the Sweet 16. Of course, the loser is done, but for the Wildcats, Matt, a great start to the tournament with the win. You know, Sean Miller talks about, being ourselves, just playing within ourselves, being the best we can be. I'm trying to come up with as many cliches as I can here, but really, was that the essence of the Wildcats' win over Belmont?
Yeah, I think it was. You look at what they did defensively, and that's where it all starts with Sean Miller. And, to me, I look back to 4 years ago. You and I were there at that first shoot-around, and he tried to implement, which was, do everything the same way, the same thing every game, the same shoot-around. I remember that shoot-around vividly, and that was really just kind of getting his team focused and ready. They didn't know how to do it. I mean, they weren't really sure how to do it. And that's what he tries to do every game all year long, and that was the key to the game last night. They came ready to play, but it was like they do that every game. And I think the second part is he's talked about that in the middle of this season, playing at a level, playing hard at a level that's an elite level. Not just playing hard, not just playing tough, but an elite level of effort. And I think that's what we saw in the first part of that game and then the rest of the game.
All right, then we got to sit and watch Harvard pull off the biggest upset so far in the tournament as they beat New Mexico. One team that a lot of people had projected to go on to the Final Four. But as you and I sat there, I think at halftime, you kind of looked at me and said, these guys, meaning Hartford, are good. I mean, I think sometimes you get this image of an Ivy League team. Is Harvard really not an Ivy League team in terms of the way that they play?
I think it's a good point. Not really, and not with their athletes that they have. And I think a lot of that is Tommy Amaker. You look at Amaker, what he did as a player, what he did as an assistant at Duke. He was at Michigan. He was at Seton Hall. He has recruited a player that's probably a step above some of the Ivy League teams we've seen in the past. And they're not a deep team. They're not a tall team. But I'll tell you what, they've got some athletes. They've got some shooters. They have great balance. They've got a great point guard. He's a freshman, but he's a floor general, a leader. And the thing that stuck out to me, in addition to being a good athletic team, was they are tough. I mean, they are a physical team. They'll grind it out. 1 through 5 will do it. And I think that was the key. You look at New Mexico. They're a tough team. They're a physical defensive team. Harvard beat them at their game.
All right, you've been through this before. You win that first game. You're probably expected to win it, and you do. And maybe your next opponent, it turns out to be, an upset winner. What's the mindset of the Wildcats? What does their mindset need to be going into this game against Harvard, a much lower seed?
It doesn't change. I mean, Sean Miller talked about it this afternoon, and that is, look, 12, 11, 11 versus a 6, a 6 versus a 14, it absolutely doesn't matter. And we saw that last night with Harvard. We saw it with Southern. Southern almost beat Gonzaga in that first game. And so the mindset, I think the first part, though, the good thing for the Wildcats, the first game to me, a psychological warfare. I mean, just to get yourself through that first game, understand to get a victory, kind of the butterflies you got to work through. Now you can kind of just play basketball. And I think this team's going to have a day to prepare. It's very similar to what we see in the Pac-12, where you play that day, you have the day off, then you play again. I think Arizona's used to that. But I think they've got to be ready to play just as hard as they did, be physical with Harvard. And I think for them, maybe the key is their depth, their length. That, to me, is kind of what's bringing this team and can get this team to the next level.
All right, you don't think Harvard's good? The last 3 Pac-12 teams they've played, Cal, Utah, Colorado, they've won all 3. Cats and the Crimson coming up Saturday from Salt Lake City.